अरे 2 कौड़ी का लौंडा है तू। तेरी औकात कैसे हो गई स्वीटी का हाथ मांगने की? जा जा पहले ढंग की जॉब ढूंढ के आ, फिर देखियो स्वीटी के सपने। अरे भीमा, अंदर ले जा स्वीटी को।
जी मालिक।
बंटी।
ना स्वीटी ना, रोना नहीं, मैं हूं ना। वादा करता हूं चौधरी, मैं वापस आऊंगा और रॉब के साथ स्वीटी को लेकर जाऊंगा।
अबे इसकी लगेगी जॉब, इसकी तो पहले ही लगी पड़ी है।
अरे अच्छों की जॉब न लगती है यहाँ, तो इस चूजे की क्या लगेगी? अरे भैये, जॉब अब तेरे बस की ना है। तू स्टेशन पे जाके चाय बेच, चाय, समझा? अरे 2 कौड़ी का लौंडा है तू।
अबे इसकी लगेगी जॉब, इसकी तो पहले ही लगी पड़ी है।
अरे अच्छों की जॉब न लगती है यहाँ, तो इस चूजे की क्या लगेगी? तू स्टेशन पे जाके चाय बेच, चाय, चाय बेच, चाय।
चौधरी, मैं आ गया चौधरी। ये देख मेरी सैलरी का चेक चौधरी।
अला,
बोला था ना मैंने, मैं आऊंगा और रॉब के साथ स्वीटी को लेकर जाऊंगा चौधरी। स्वीटी, कम स्वीटी, लेट्स गो पार्टी। हाँ,
तो आज ही सेफ जॉब आए। प्रोफाइल असेसमेंट, करियर काउंसलिंग, पर्सनलाइज्ड लर्निंग पाथ्स और अपनी ड्रीम जॉब की गारंटीड प्लेसमेंट पाएं। सेफ जॉब, जॉब है तो रॉब है।
Yes, you can. If you are ready, we are ready. We are going to talk about communication,
supply chain management, sales,
advanced Excel,
so get set to find your dream job
and your dream career. Hi, I'm Nikita.
I'm Ashish Srivastav.
I am Sakshi Namrata Chawla.
I'm Varang.
And this is Safe Job. The hunt for a job stops here.
So what are you waiting for?
See you all in class. So you want a great job? Check this. Go to Safe Job, sign up and take a test. Find your best career fit and simply enroll. Get ready to change your life. Classes start, get that head start. Attend live lectures, meet your batch. Learn Excel, Google Suite, PowerPoint. Sales operation analytics too. Zyada ho gaya? Take a chai break, yeah? Get back on track. WhatsApp your instructor. Track some case studies with your buddies. Take part in group discussions, learn English, management, leadership. Sleep, wake up, get to college. Kidding, yeah? We're online. On-demand classes at your time. Assessments that make sure you're in line. Mentorship sessions, counseling and learning. Master those interview skills. Write your resume or better yet, record an amazing resume. Ace that interview and land that perfect job. So what are you waiting for?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Hey guys, welcome to Save Job Career Carnival 2020. Today we have with us Miss Aditi Krishn, our head of growth from Save Job. She is an alumni from IIT Kanpur and Ahmedabad. Oh my god, so many prestigious institutions, Aditi. So many great achievements. Work with Startups Network and Ola, and now our head of growth. Hi Aditi, how are you?
I am good, Nishi. How are you doing?
I'm good. So, before we begin with the session, I would love to hear your journey, your career path, and about whatever you have achieved till now. Your thoughts about it.
I won't talk about it like that, but let me just tell you about my profile a little bit briefly, and you've already taken care of that, but let us be a little bit repetitive. So I did my graduation in computer science from IIT Kanpur, and after that I straight went to IIM Ahmedabad, and I have interned with organizations like Max Planck, with Bell Laboratories, with Aditya Birla. And after passing out, I joined my first job in Star Disney Network as the EA to the sales head. And then I also handled their flagship channel Star Plus for about a year. And after that, I moved to Ola Cabs. In Ola Cabs, I have handled the shared category and the shared product. And apart from that, I have also worked in the CEO office and worked on a couple of transformation projects. And after that, I'm here. Okay. Any other updates that you'd like on this?
No, that was very brief and like a very good introduction, I would say. So, before we go to the comment section and we take questions from our audience, I would like to take some personal questions from my side. So my first question would be, you have been a consistent performer throughout the year, okay? So like IIT, IIMs, like this is a dream institutions for every youth in India, right? But there is a huge difference in the career path that we get after getting graduation from IIT or IIM and our tier 2, tier 3 colleges. So what are your thoughts about the differences in the career path or whatever we face after graduating from different colleges?
Okay, so that's a good question, because people who are graduating from tier 2, 3 or 3 colleges are also investing just the same amount of resources in getting that education, even if it is not from a tier 1 college. So let us first talk about the difference in the career path. So when you begin from a tier 1 college and when you begin from a tier 2 or tier 3 college, the beginning is very different. But as you go 5 years down the line in the same organization, a lot of people make up for that loss of time in that time by getting to the same position on the dint of their hard work and their perseverance and the way they work and function in the organization, which may be very different for two people from 2 different colleges. But a person from a tier 2, tier 3 college could also make up to it, because he might be more social, more adept at working with other people in compared to a tier 1 college graduate. So that's the first thing. Secondly, if right out of college, or if you want to increase the chances of this happening, the most important thing is focusing on developing your skills. Now, skills can be of 2 types. Skills can be very broad level common skills, like the way you think, your decision making, your communications. They are very broad level skills. And the second category of skills are the niche skills, which is required for a particular kind of job. Now, when you go to a tier 1, any college or any place of education, you go through a plethora of skills, right? But for doing a particular job, you don't probably need all of those skills that you study in 3 years or 2 years of time. But probably maybe 4 or 5 of those skill sets will be actually applicable when you're working in the industry, depending on the industry that you take, depending on the domain that you take, right? So if you're asking me that how can a tier 2 or tier 3 college student compete with a tier 1 college student, given that the prima facie opportunity itself is very different for the 2 people, then the ideal way to go about it is to develop your skill set to the level of that tier 1 college. And that can be done for the common skills, that can be done for all the skills, or that can be done for these niche set of skills. The easiest thing would be to do it for the niche set of skills, because you choose a domain, you see that, okay, fine, maybe I'm not great at everything, but I am working in this industry, I'm working in this domain, so I will sharpen myself in these 4 or 5 skills that I've chosen, and the general common skills which help you in developing as a person and as a person, like communication, decision making that I mentioned. Those are some of the skills which you need to develop, and all of this can be done through training. So through training, as in through by self-training, by taking up small courses outside. If you want, like, there are several ways of doing it. We can get into it later while we talk. Okay, Nishi? Any follow-up?
Yep.
I would request you to ask me follow-up questions, because otherwise it will become a monologue.
Yeah, completely. I completely understand. We have questions in the comments right now. There's one question from Amor. What are the few habits and qualities you inculcated to which you attribute your success to?
There are a lot of different habits and things that you need to do to. So see, this is a very diverse answer. Okay, it's a very diverse question. It's a very broad question. Nobody can tell you as to what those, pinpoint particular habits and tell you that these, if you do this, this will happen. None of that is sure. But of course, there are some personality traits that if you hone, you should be able to get somewhere. Okay, so to begin with, I think for being successful, and let us not just say that being successful is being from tier 1 college or having a brilliant profile or earning a lot of money. Being successful can be anything. Okay, it's just achieving what you plan to achieve is being successful, right? So first thing is your yearning, your urge to be successful is what will get you started on the path. Right? You first have to, the first and foremost thing that you have to do is to think about a goal, and is to want to achieve that goal, which I call yearning, right? So unless you want to do something, you will never do it. So that is the first thing. And that's when you get started on a particular path. And then the second most important thing there is whether or not you stick to that path, which is essentially perseverance. So a lot of times there are, not a lot of times, I think pretty much all the time there will be setbacks. Your targets will not be achieved, your objectives will fail. But if you want to be successful, you have to stick to the path. Nobody can do something in the first go. Nobody is that talented. Maybe there are some people, but not most people. For the majority, 95% of people, you have to just keep doing it till you get it right. So one, you have to want to be successful. Second, you have to be perseverant, and you have to be, keep doing what you're doing to get there without relentlessly. Okay, and the third most important thing, which I have learned over some times while I've been working, is that you also have to distance yourself a little bit and not get very emotionally attached to what you're doing, because if you do that, you'll not be able to take setbacks. So you have to look at it from a distance. You have to maintain equanimity, which means that essentially in success and in failure, especially the small successes and failures that you get on the way to becoming successful or attaining a goal, you have to take all of that equally, right? You have to learn from your failures. You have to also learn from your successes. So that will help you maintain a calm. And when you're calm, you can make better decisions. You can make more objective decisions. And when you make objective and rational decisions, they are more likely to be to result in a good decision, essentially. So these are the three things that I would say is required. You have to so yeah, just to summarize, you have to want something, to have the urge to get it. You have to have the perseverance and the patience to put in that effort. You'll fail, but you have to do it again. And the third thing is that you have to maintain equanimity. Yeah.
Great. That helped a lot. I hope Aditi answered Amod's question. Yeah. Okay. So let's move on to the next one. It's by Afreen Parveen, and I think it's a really important one. So she asks, what skill should a last year student acquire during this COVID time, which would be most helpful? I think what she means is like next year she's gonna get graduated and get a job, I guess.
Okay, so this is a good question. It's a very practical question, unlike the previous two questions. So, okay, so you're basically asking that so you're passing out next year and you want to get a job and you want to ask what skill you want to develop. Now that is very much a function of what skills you already have, what degree you're getting, and what field you're in. So a better, let me rephrase the question. A better question to ask would be, which job do I think would be in the most demand in the coming year, right? So there I have some views, because since I've been interacting with the industry. So now for the last 1 year, everything has been shut. A lot of, the economy has gone down, things have closed. Now that, we are in this zone where the vaccine could come in and the economy is now opening up, businesses have started hiring again slowly. It's obviously the employment rate is also low, but people have started opening up. New businesses have started coming up. The old ones are trying to revive themselves. Therefore, a good area to position yourself in I would say is sales. And you would have also observed that there's this whole edtech sector which is coming up, which is a huge demand of sales. Then there are several other, in fact, in all the other sectors as well, even in operations, logistics, everywhere, analytics, maximum demand is in sales, which is also natural because the economy is starting to open up now. And the first thing you need to build a business is sales. Right, so that is one domain that I would say is expanding right now. So even if you are in a different profile, to answering your specific question, even if you are in a domain, so I don't know in which domain you are or what you're doing. If it would be helpful if you could tell me what is your undergraduate degree. But anyway, even if you're doing a technical skill and you want to get into a core job, you would need some amount of selling to do. Okay, in that job as well, to be able to sell your product, unless you're going into pharma where there's already a lot of demand. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yes, I guess so.
Okay.
So we can move on to the next question.
Yes.
Hi, Nishi, it would be very helpful if you could just type the name of the person who's asking the question.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So we'll speak. We'll tell you who is asking the question. So this So this one was by Afreen Parveen.
Yes.
The last one. Afreen, does it answer your question? I hope it does.
I hope.
Go ahead.
So we have our next question from Aditi. He is asking, you have worked for both corporate and as well as startup. So how do you, what is the difference in the work culture, or what is the comparison between the work, the kind of work we do in both the different worlds, corporate versus startups?
Okay, so you're asking what is the difference between an established company which has been working for a long time and is probably a big organization compared to a smaller setup, which is a startup which is just started, right?
Yeah.
So there are some obvious notes to write here. So an old organization or established corporate is big in size. It has been there for a long time, whereas a startup has just started. It's small, it's nimble, it moves faster. So let me first talk about the corporate setup. So in a corporate setup, most of your processes are set, your structures are set, the way people work cultures are more or less fixed. right? And when you join at an entry level, there's not much that you can change about the processes or the culture or the structures that are in place. In bigger organizations, innovativeness is generally driven from the top. So if your management is innovative, or it promotes innovativeness, like a lot of big companies also promote ideas at the grassroots level. So in those companies, the innovativeness or the nimbleness is driven from top. Okay, that is one basic difference. And in bigger companies, like one would expect, since they've been there for a certain number of time, and like I said, the processes are also set up, it tends to get a little bit bureaucratic. So like Max Weber said, all organizations tend to get bureaucratic after a certain number of years. Okay, so that is essentially the difference. Whereas when you're in a startup, so yeah, one more thing. In the bigger companies, you usually have enough resources. It's well functioning. It's well oiled, right? So there's very little friction. Very small chance that you will not know what to do. Most often, either you'll know what to do, or there'll be someone in the company who will be able to tell you what to do. Okay, and then you just have to focus on the thing that you're doing. Whereas in smaller companies or startups, there's a resource limitation. Okay, usually startups work with resource limitations. You have to take decisions on a very small, short notice. But that said, there is a huge opportunity of learning that decision-making skill. Because when you are in every small situation, you have to make decisions, right? Because you're the only one who's making decisions for most part of times, and there are other 10 people like you. So you develop that skill of quick and effective decision making. And apart from that, you are free to drive the culture of the organization. You're free to set up processes of the organization. Your ideas, you can pitch them faster. They may be adopted faster. They may also be rejected at the same rate. So the basic difference, like I've already said, is that a startup is nimble, it's faster, it's easier to mold and change. You can create higher impact in a shorter time period, but you can also not create any impact, right? Whereas in a big organization, the amount of impact you create at a smaller or an entry level might be smaller, but the organization is more or less well functioning, and you will find a place for yourself. And eventually, if you keep working in a big organization, you will understand and fall down in their culture. So you'll adapt their culture, and that will become like your second life. So essentially, that is what happens to people who constantly work in big organizations, which is not essentially a bad thing. People are of different kinds. So it depends. It entirely depends on what kind of person you are and what environment you will find more suitable. Okay, so a lot of people find it difficult to work in environments where there is resource constraints, where there are no processes set up, where there's no way of doing something, where everything has to be started from scratch. But that is essentially the difference between the two places. Okay, the ownership is more in a startup. Ownership is a little less in a big organization, but functioning in a big organization is easier because the processes are set up. Functioning might be a little difficult in a smaller organization because nothing is set up, but then you learn the art of decision making. Okay?
Right. Amazing. I hope Aditi answered Atishay's question. So it was very wonderfully put. Thank you, Aditi. We'll move on to the next question. It is by Swati Aryan. She asks, what made you change your career from beginning a technical student to a marketing? I mean, how do you switch from a technical background to a marketing background? So yeah.
How do you switch? I did an MBA. That's the answer to how do you switch.
I mean, she's asking what made you change your background from a technical one to, a marketing one.
Okay, yeah, that's I get asked that quite often. So, okay, so my degree is in computer science, which is one of the most used fields in these days. But and a lot of my friends are doing PhDs, and people who do computer science generally get into either development, they go into research, Some of them become data scientists. So it's a matter of personal choice, that what do you want to do. So for me particularly, I did not want to be in an individual contributor role for most of my life. And so that said, I enjoy coding and programming, and I like computer science. It's not that I don't like it, but it's just that I didn't want to do the job of a developer or get a PhD and become an individual contributor for the rest of my life. And I like working in a team. I like working with people, and I personally feel that when you are in a business environment and you do an MBA, or you're actually working with people, with businesses, the amount of impact that you can create is higher. Whereas, see, technical skills, you can see, I'm not saying that you can't create impact with technical skills. In fact, if you innovate something and if you invent something, the impact created is also extremely high. But unless you're able to make utilization of that product that you've created, that invention that you've done, you will not be able to create an impact. That is where business comes into picture. And that being said, being a business major does not mean that you don't use your other degrees, which is an absolutely essential thing to do. There are a lot of people who get 2 degrees, but the point of getting 2 degrees is that you should be able to make use of all your degrees. Okay, so now that I am done with my MBA, the work that I do, like I worked in product as well. So having this knowledge and background of computer science really helps you to get there. Okay, and there are a lot of fields like this. Like there is people who've done in tech, okay, and they do their MBA. When they do business after that, they can actually sell the product much better. They can create products that are way more useful for the consumer. Because if you're only technical, you understand only the technical part. If you're only MBA, you only understand the user end of things and what the requirement is or the demand is. But if you've done both, you can basically match the supply and the demand. Right? So your effectiveness becomes even higher if you are able to utilize both your degrees. So it's actually I don't agree with people when they say that why do you have to do an MBA for an engineer? Why do you have to be an engineer if you wanted to do an MBA? Because there are ways of using all your degrees, and education is nothing that goes in the waste. You just have to plan it well, and you have to have the intention of using whatever you've learned. Okay, so the reason for getting an MBA or being in business despite having a CS, despite being a CS graduate, is this, which is essentially a personal choice of the kind of career that I wanted to have and the kind of impact that I think I am better at creating. And that's it. It's always possible to use your degrees. So when I went into management, I knew that I would be able to use my computer science degree in some way because I knew of the jobs that were available where using this skill is important. Okay. And having this skill will give me a preference over other people who are just MBAs.
Correct.
Correct.
Awesome.
I don't know how correct or awesome that was, but that was the reality. Like that is the truth.
Yeah, that's the truth. But here is a very big fallback here in India. Everybody cannot afford an MBA, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think? How people suppose I have done my graduation, but I don't have any opportunity, right? So what do you think is the best strategy for a student who is graduate but he cannot afford to go for MBA or any higher studies? What should be the strategy of that particular student?
Okay, so that's actually a good question, and let me just divide this question into 2-3 parts. Okay, so there's a simple graduate, and some of these simple graduates are going for higher studies. Some of these graduates are not going for higher studies, and then we'll answer them both separately. So in India, we have this huge skill and job gap, right? So people who are educated, for instance, a person is a graduate and an MBA, and the kind of job that he expects he will get, he usually is not able to get. What do you think is the reason for that? The majority reason for that is that even if he's done an MBA, probably he's not skilled enough to be able to do that job. That also takes me back to the first and the second question that we talked about, which is essentially what will a tier 2 pass out college student do? So now the question is, after graduation, whether you should go for an MBA, or like the question you asked was, if a person cannot go for MBA, what should they do? But I'm also including the fact that whether or not you should go for an MBA. That is also very important, because MBA is not easy. MBA is a lot of investment. It's an investment of a lot of money. Even MBA from tier 2, tier 3 colleges do not come cheap, right? So even people who are maybe taking education loans and going for an MBA, even for them, this question applies even for them, okay? So the thing is that you don't need to get an MBA from a certified college to do good at a job, okay? Because jobs essentially have very limited set of skills that they utilize, especially at the entry level, and especially in industry specific or domain specific jobs. So when you are getting into a job, doing well in a job will require to have a certain set of niche skills, and training yourself in those skills, which is essentially upskilling, which actually the government of India also invests in heavily. So upskilling yourself for a particular or 2-3 particular skills that a job requires will probably help you way more than a general education, which upskills you for like 4-5 different skills. Okay, so I'm not saying that doing an MBA is not a good thing or not a benefit. There you get upskilled in 5-6 different fields, and you can choose among those 5-6 different fields. Like you learn about marketing, you learn about sales, you learn about finance, you learn about accounting, you learn about operations, you learn about whatnot. So you get more options to choose from if you do an MBA. But that is, you don't necessarily have to choose from a lot of options, right? If you can't go for an MBA, or you have to look at the return on investment that you do when you do an MBA. So if you're already sure, or if you can, understand that maybe this is where my passion lies, maybe sales is where my passion lies, maybe operations is where my passion lies, maybe something else is where, maybe finance is where my passion lies, then you probably, you don't have to take that whole plethora of education. You can just pick, cherry pick that particular domain and get yourself upskilled in that domain. Okay, and once you do that, that will obviously require you a smaller amount of time, maybe 4 months to 6 months, and you can upskill yourself better in that particular domain, and you can also learn things around that. So that would be a good substitute for an MBA. And apart from that, there are, like I also said in the first question, there are some global skills, which is essentially the way you think. So that is something also that can be inculcated in the way you're taught, or in the kind of courses of upskilling that you're taking. So that should suffice for getting a good job. So obviously, see, it's not that you will start getting a good job from day one, because it's not just you who has to change, right? It's the whole mechanism that has to change. So people who are hiring don't know whether or not doing an MBA and doing an upskilling is sufficient enough. But once a lot of people start doing this in their lives, then a lot of hiring people or people in the companies would also start realizing that maybe I don't need to hire an MBA, right? So it's a cycle. And once that cycle starts to turn and churn, that's when this change will happen, and people will not need to invest monetarily into education, and they will be able to get the same level of jobs with lower investments, which is what we want. And then this skill and this demand will kind of match. Okay.
Got it. Amazing. Yeah. So I guess Aditi is very, very, very thorough, and I just hope that all the people who are commenting are actually listening to her, because it's very insightful. Anyway, let's move on to the next question. This is by Surbhi Tiwari. She asks, can a student from a technical background can build a career in finance? I want to know ways through which we can enter that arena.
Technical and finance. What kind of technical background in finance?
The details are not mentioned. I mean, this is all that we have.
Okay, so technical background. So I'm just assuming that this person is an engineer or maybe a doctor. I don't know. So let's just assume engineer. So because the degree might not be very relevant for finance. Again, so in finance also there are different streams, okay, which require different kind of education. So a very easy thing to do would be to get higher education if you want to change your stream. Because I am doing a blanket reference and I'm not very sure what kind of audience I'm talking to. Therefore, I have to give you all the options, right? So the best way to change your stream is to get a degree in the other stream that you're trying to pursue. But that is not, like I talked about return on investment, that is not always the best option. So you have to think about what degree you have. Okay, let's just talk very simply about it. Look at what you have, look at your degree, okay, look at your strengths. See if you can make use of that in finance. For instance, a lot of undergraduate colleges also have courses in finance. So you may have done, like in IIT, we had courses in humanities. So I did a lot of economics courses along with my computer science. So if you can do that, if you're still in college and you have the option of picking up finance courses with your technical courses as a humanities option, you can do that. Then you'll have a base in finance, and later when you pass out, you can you can do any kind of upskilling or training in finance. You can take a course or maybe a 6-month course. You can do an internship. So a very good way of going into a field that you've never worked in before is to start with an internship. You try to convert an internship into an on-job training. So on-job trainings are generally higher, they are for longer durations than internships, and you get a very good idea of the day-to-day functioning of the place, because internships are generally done in projects, right? You get a project of 2 months and you finish your project. Whereas on-job training is essentially that you will be working like a person who's working in that place for a full year, but the duration will be shorter, of course. So you do an internship, you do an on-job training. Along with that, you keep upskilling yourself. You try to learn some of those things that are required in finance. Now, in finance, there are different things. Now, if you want to become a CA, or because I'm not very sure what the question is. So if you want to go into CACS, then you practice for that, and then in that you have to also qualify a lot of exams. So you have to look at the syllabus, and for that you also have to be a BCom. So I don't think, okay, CS would not be possible, but you could do a CFA. CFA is a good option for people with technical skills who want to move to finance. And if you have a degree in CFA, maybe degree 1 or degree 2, then people should be willing to hire you. So that is a good practical option for you to get. So you join a good course in finance, you take that, you upskill yourself, you take a CFA level 1, CFA level 2, which is good enough for you to get into any good banking sector or finance company as well. So that is the most practical thing to do. And after that, if you don't get a good job or a decent job, try to get an internship or an OJT for about a year, maybe 2 internships for a year. And after that, you should be able to get a decent job. And for the job, don't be very, picky about the salary and other things, because, once you're starting in a new domain of which you have no experience, your salary might be lower than the industry standard. Your salary might be lower than your peers as well, because the technical people who are working in technical would have higher salaries than you. So don't be very picky. In fact, you just have to invest a year more if you want to change your domain. That's it. So invest that 1 more year, do all these things, then you should be able to move on, even without a second degree.
I hope I answered her question. Let's move on to the next one. This is a bit conventional. At the same time, it's unconventional because we are talking about different domains right now. So the question is from Devki Nandan. How to deal with teammates who are not as efficient as you are? So it's kind of a situation-based question for him. He is in a good position right now, but his teammates are from not that good colleges and they're not that efficient. So how to deal with them?
So the question is how to deal with inefficient teammates.
Yes.
Inefficient reportees or colleagues? Like just teammates, that's the question. How to deal with inefficient teammates.
Who also have less knowledge.
Yes, of course, I have
So
knowledge.
yeah.
Okay, okay, let's think of it like this. Team, what do you think people in the same in a team do? Do you think everyone in the team does the exact same thing? I don't think that's true, then it would not be a team. Like a cricket team, everybody doesn't bat. There are people who bat, there are people who bowl, there are people who just do wicket keeping, and there are people who maybe do all two of batting and bowling, everything, right? So what I'm trying to say is that when you're working in a team, different people have different skill sets. Okay. And so let me answer this question in two parts. If you're feeling this is irrelevant, I'll get to the inefficient part also. So the first thing is that people might have different skill sets. And therefore, what's important to work well in a team is that you have to identify the skill set of that person. Okay. And you have to, if you are the manager or even if you're the colleague of that person, you have to help the other person develop that skill set and use that skill set, because that is how you will work together. So it's like a jigsaw fit. They don't have to be the same. They don't have to be working as efficiently as you in the same thing. Maybe they have some other talent. If you're good in analytics, maybe the other person is good in comms. You might feel that they're incompetent in the kind of job that I am doing. They're not good with numbers, but maybe they have some other skill. Maybe they can convince people better. They can do stakeholder management better. So I personally feel that every person has some talent, and if they're there with you, they definitely have some talent that can be used. And using that talent is important, not just for you, but also for that person. Secondly, obviously, in a very practical scenario, let's come down from the idealistic platform. There may be scenarios where people are actually inefficient and they're not working properly. Now, there can be two reasons for this. One, the person actually doesn't know how to do the thing. They are not talented enough. They have not been, they don't know how to do it. Second is that their willingness to do it is not as high as yours. And therefore, they are not taking the thing as sincerely. That's the two part. One is talent, the other is sincerity. So you have to understand, narrow it down as to what exactly is the reason for this inefficiency and why the person is lacking. And after you narrow it down, so if it's a talent problem, the person doesn't know how to do it. And sometimes, believe me, people have trouble admitting that they don't know something or that they need to be upskilled, especially in front of their manager that they usually want to impress, right? So you have to understand whether or not that skill is teachable. So sometimes with practice, people get way better than what they used to be. So if you have to identify what that is and whether or not that person can be coached. And you also have to approach that person in a way that the person doesn't feel offended or does not feel as if he's been pinpointed. Otherwise, he'll not try to perform for you. Okay, if you're in the same team, you have to be on the same team, right? So you do the skill training, the talent training, and develop that. If that is the problem, if sincerity is the problem, there could be different reasons for it. Maybe he's feeling undercompensated. Maybe he feels he's overworked. Maybe he feels there is unfairness in the workplace. So you need to identify the reason for the insincerity and try to sort it out. Okay, I hope that helps.
Great. I think even this is helpful for us also in the long run if we may counter a situation like this. So thanks a lot, Aditi. Moving on to the next question. This is a question which is kind of, so this person asks, what should be our life goal? So it's a really philosophical question, but I would very much want you to answer this. So yeah,
life goal.
Yeah, and this is by Sanjeev Tiwari.
I mean, can you please ask that person to elaborate? Because what is your life goal? Is to, I don't know. Should I quote religions?
Philosophical answer.
Okay, so let me take a stab at it. Obviously, this is very, very theoretical and purely based on my the way I perceive life. But what could be the goal in life? So basically, first thing is that your goal is not constant. Okay, when you're growing, when you have different experiences, when you're at a different age, your goals keep evolving. And I feel that if your goals are not evolving, then you are also not evolving as a person. So the life in itself, I don't think can have one goal. Your goal constantly keeps evolving, and that is how you grow as a person, right? And eventually, so like when you when you're young, when you're small, so let's just correlate the goals in life with what you're supposed to do based on our current understanding of the society, right? So based on what your age is, like for us, when we are young, when we are still building our family, our goal is to, earn a living. Our goal is to support our parents. Our goal is to support our children. So we have to work in a certain way. When we reach a certain age, when we probably get to retirement, our goals are slightly different. We would try to detach ourselves from general things in life. When we're children, our goals are essentially very, very limited. We just have to perform well and do what our parents expect us to do. So that's what I can talk about the goal in life. But yeah, that's the one thing, that your goals need to keep evolving, and they need to be something that make you feel satisfied. So there is this concept which says that an easy life or a simple life is not something that humans strive for. Humans strive for a life full of struggle. Okay, so unless your life is filled with struggle, it does not give you satisfaction enough of having lived it. So your goals should be such that it challenges you, that it makes you wake up every morning and do something. Right? So that is how you set up a goal for yourself. You need to feel challenged. You need to feel that you have struggle in your life, and then you're doing something. And when you're doing this, you don't just create impact for yourself. And eventually, once you've done it for yourself and your family, you also try to do it for the society, for other people. And that gives you greater satisfaction. Right? So that is the most theoretical answer that I've ever given. I hope that is okay.
Nishi, I think I can listen to her all day. Aditi, you are coming up with really amazing answers. What do you say?
Oh my God. Don't embarrass me.
No, not embarrassing. I'm actually really happy to listen to you, actually. My ears are really happy right now.
I am expecting that people are looking and it hits them in
Getting
some way.
inspired.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nishi, what were you saying?
Okay. This particular session is so
Yes.
inspiring. Learning from the legends.
Yes, it is actually very motivating. I hope our audience takes maximum things from this session as much as they can.
Yes.
So
Aditi, one question from Sanket.
Yeah.
So I guess this is, although it has been asked by one particular student, but I feel like this is a question that every student has this in their head. What are the personality traits which an individual look for?
I've already answered this question in some form or the other earlier, but I will just reiterate it. What personality traits are required for being successful? Is that what you asked?
Yes, that's the question that he has asked.
Okay, so so I've definitely answered this before, but okay, so let me just put it in very briefly this time. So what personality traits do you need to be successful? I had said, if I remember correctly, you need, let me refer it back to the previous question, which what should be your goal in life, right? You need to have a goal. You need to have an urge, yearning in life if you want to be successful, right? If you don't want to do anything, then you really don't want to do anything. You will not do anything, right? So the first thing is learning. The second thing is mental toughness, which is perseverance. And the third thing is equanimity. I remember it because I just said it.
okay.
Is it a question that was asked before, right?
Yeah.
Nishi, if I remember correctly?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So one question from...
हाँ, बोलो.
Yeah. So how has hampered or affected the general overview or working of a startup?
General overview of functioning of a startup.
Yes.
General overview of functioning of a startup. Okay.
Pandemic functioning of a startup.
Sorry, say that again. Could you just type it? It'll be easier for me to understand.
Okay. Am I not audible properly?
No, your voice is breaking a little bit.
Okay. How has pandemic hampered or affected the working of a startup?
Okay, how has the pandemic affected the working of a startup? So the pandemic has affected everything, right? The pandemic has affected big companies, some big companies way more than startups as well, and in most of our lives. But what has the pandemic done? We've asked that question. The pandemic has stopped the demand for products, right? People have stopped consuming things. When consumption drops, businesses drops. Right, your business drops, your economy shrinks, because essentially your GDP is a consumption-based metric. The more you consume, the higher your GDP is. So then, what makes these startups suffer more than a bigger company is the length of the pocket, essentially. So bigger companies generally have deeper pockets. They are able to sustain losses for longer periods of time. They are able to, they're able to function even without selling their products. Whereas a startup is something which is, it's like a small plant, right? And if a small plant does not get the perfect amount of sunlight and the perfect amount of nutrition, it will die, right? So the problem with the startup world in the pandemic scenario is that because of lack of resources, a lot of startups have wound up. They have not been able to sustain for very long period of times if they don't have funding. And of course, they don't have very deep pockets, because a lot of them actually start with burning cash and have not yet reached the break even or the revenue phase. And even if some of them have reached the earning profits or the revenue is more than the cost phase, even then, because of the huge drop in demand and the maintenance of the fixed cost, which is there to run any company, which is essentially your employees, your infrastructure, and the general cost of maintenance. Especially in manufacturing, you also have a higher ICOR, which is essentially your cost of capital is higher because you have more assets. So maintaining that while not having any demand or not making any top line has led to lowering of the number of startups that are there, and the jobs in the startups have also gone down because of that. But then we also have a little silver lining that once the economy starts to open and there is demand, then when the economy starts to open, there is demand. Startups are the first thing that come out, right? Just like a small plant. Whenever there's the atmosphere becomes conducive, these startups start to grow also. So like I said previously, startups are nimble. Right? They are agile. They move fast. They close fast. They also start fast. Right? So I hope that answers your question. What has the pandemic done to the startups? So this is how the startup scenario has gone down and probably is coming up again in the pandemic and the post-pandemic phase. Was that the question? Did I get it? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so let's move on to a little situation based questions. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay, so this one is by Amod again. So he says that I'm a final year undergrad student specializing in finance, and I want to take your opinion on whether students should take a gap year and prepare for getting into tier 1 or 2 colleges, or pursue CFA level 3 certification, because it is often believed that MBA from average colleges is not worthy in India.
So is he already CFA level 2?
No, he's asking if they should take a gap to prepare for either CFA or getting into tier 1 or tier 2.
Okay, so at this point in time, I would personally, I would not suggest for anyone to take a break. If you have a job in hand, please take it, because of the pandemic and because of all the layoffs and everything. There are a lot of people in the market who already have work experience or unemployed, right? So if you leave a job now, if you have a job already in the final year, I'm hoping you'll be sitting for placement, so you will be getting some job. My suggestion would be to take a job. Or if you don't want to take a job and you want to prepare maybe half of your time, to get an internship or get an OJT. And along with, and this is specifically for the pandemic time, okay, because jobs are scarce right now. Once the economy is back to a boom, then you can think of taking a year off and preparing. So, and along with that job or that OJT, you can prepare for CFA if you want to prepare for CFA, or if you want to prepare for an MBA, you can do that. Another thing, if you're pursuing an undergraduate in finance and you want to get a good MBA degree or so, then getting a CFA would always be helpful. So when you get into an MBA college as well, having a CFA differentiates you from other people who've probably done their BTech or whatever, BS in finance. Okay. Was that the question? I think I misinterpreted the question. Was it something else?
No, so he just wanted to understand if you should take a gap. I mean, you answered it perfectly. If you should take a gap and prepare, or should you continue with a job, or you know?
Definitely. For in this time, you should definitely not leave a job opportunity. Had it been a booming time, then I would have said कि job तो कभी भी मिल जाएगा, but prepare कर लो. But abhi don't leave a job for preparation.
Okay.
So and so even if you're doing a job, you can maybe do evening classes. ऐसा कहीं पे if you get like courses वगैरह कर सकते हो, आप preparation कर सकते हो. You can do coaching with it, right? In the evening or so, even if you're working, or take a lighter job, take an easier job which is not very demanding.
Okay.
Okay. So here's one question from Kavya. So when it comes to a sector, banking and finance is something that attracts her. But when she thinks about doing an MBA, she wants to go for HR too. So what do you think is the will HR help to grow faster, or MBA in finance or finance or banking sector would be in the plan?
See, the question in itself is a little contradictory, because the question is that I like finance and I like HR. And then she's asking what will get her to grow.
Yeah.
Now, all different sectors have different growth trajectories. Okay. So you either have to decide whether you want to go by the growth trajectory or you want to go by your choice. So, and also finance and HR are very different fields. Had it been finance and accounts, I would have suggested that you take a common course in the beginning, see what you like, get a job, get an internship, see what you like, and then choose one. But HR and finance are actually very varied fields. Okay. And she's in the final year of college, right? What is the girl doing? Nishi?
I guess she is in the final year, I guess. She is in the final year, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. So I would suggest that first you make up your mind. Okay. Because it's very difficult to pursue both of the things because they're very different. And knowing what you're supposed to do is very, very important. So I'm sorry, I missed this point when you asked me what is important in becoming successful. Direction is also very, very important. Would that somebody ask this question? So you can't, you can be persevering, you can do everything that you can do, but you will not reach your goal unless you have the direction. So you need to decide what you want to do. Okay, and for deciding what you want to do, you can probably do 2 internships, one in HR, one in finance. You can talk to a lot of people, talk to people who are working in finance, try to understand what they're doing. But the best way is to do an internship. Do 2 months internship in HR and finance. Make up your mind about the 2 subjects, because even in HR, there is good growth trajectory. Banking also has good growth trajectory. Right now, the financial sector, it's the same. It's not like it's dipping. It's not 2008. So 2007-8, there was a dip and the whole finance sector and everything really dipped. A lot of people were laid off. That is not the scenario right now. So pretty much both the fields are functioning like they were functioning, and you can choose either. in the current scenario. Obviously, the amount of money that you will earn as an HR and as a in finance is obviously very different. If you become an investment banker, you will be earning a lot of money. If you go trade in the market, your earning will be different. You'll be paid on incentives on the amount of money you make. If you become a CS, if you become like a company secretary, your earning will be different. So obviously, the salaries of finance and the salaries of HR are very different, which you can very easily check on Glassdoor. But in the current context, both of them are doing just as well. So just take an internship, make up your mind, and choose one.
Okay, so I hope Kavya will be able to, put this advice in her. Find it useful. Okay, so let's move on to another question. We are doing situation based right now, so that people have their answers. This is from.
One more request: when you're doing a situation-based question, guys, please give your situation a little more detail, because I'll not be able to answer if they are very broad level questions, or my answer will be very elaborate and it will not be very specific to your case.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the next question is by Shweta. She is asking, how do I manage both my preparation and my college studies and later on internship, because I don't want to take a gap. So
you want to do an internship and prepare and college. See, these things are totally a function of your capability and the amount of stress that you have at college. So I would never suggest a student to do everything and then just, lose hair. So don't do that. Okay. Judge yourself. So a very good way of deciding on what you can or cannot do, you just write it down. Very simply, create a task sheet, write down what you're supposed to do, put hours across each, and be liberal with it. Don't try to, be very genuine with it. Don't make it very conservative. Don't make it very lenient. Be very genuine when you're allotting this time. So see how much time you will need for an internship, see how much time and effort you will need for your college, see how much you will need for this preparation. Usko likho, hours likho, effort likho, see if you can do it. If you can't do it, then you pick 2 out of the 3. Simple. Okay, and you have to consider time, you have to consider the amount of effort that you're going to put in, and always account for a slight overrun, right? Always account for the time that you will lag in something and you have to make up. And do a proper time gap and then see if you can do it or not. Make it as objective as possible. Don't try to think ki teeno kar lenge, nahi to kuch nahi hoga. So just pick the 2 that you can do. If you can do 3, then you also have to make a proper timetable and do it. So this is how I work. Whenever I have a lot of work and I don't know what to do, I make a timetable. Without a timetable, it's very difficult to perform a lot of work simultaneously.
Okay. So I hope Shweta is equipped with
no worries. We will take one last question and then we'll close this. So last question from Farheen. She's from commerce background. So I have she has a great knowledge of accounts, but choosing HR and marketing as specialization, she wants to do that. So but she's not sure about it. So how should she make up the decision?
Okay, so you probably have a degree in commerce and you want to move to HR and marketing. HR and marketing. Okay, that's let's just treat it as some other stream than your graduation stream, and how would you make up your mind for it? So the most important thing in choosing a career is to know what you will do with that career. Okay, so if any, like, this actually becomes a very broad answer, because if you have a particular expertise or a talent, and you also have a degree in that, let's just equate talent and degree all together, and you want to do something else because that excites you, right? So the first answer to this is, if something excites you, you'll probably put in way more effort in doing that. So it is always a good idea to do something which you like, which you're interested in, and it also obviously has an economic opportunity, right? So you should also always pick the one which excites you more. Secondly, sometimes people don't know what the actual job is like, right? What they're actually going to do, what they're actually going to make out of an HR or marketing, or what they're actually going to make out of accounting or commerce. So try to talk to as many people as you can, okay, and try to get an idea of what the actual job is, what they're actually doing, what the growth trajectory is, what they're doing 5 years down the line. Because once you pick a career, it's very difficult to go back, right? So you don't just have to look at the entry level, you also have to look at the career path and what people do 5 years, 10 years down the line. A very good way that I suggested earlier as well is to do an internship or do an OJT and get an idea as to what it is, which is why a lot of MBA colleges actually provide a deferment, right, of 1 year or so that you can experiment and see what you actually like. Because what the perception that you have as a student in your head is very different from what you actually do in the industry. And the feel of it is also very different. So, like for analytics, if I would say, so what you think you're going to do as an analyst, you think I'm going to forecast things, I'm going to do that. When you're actually doing it, that is just 20-30% of your job. Rest of the time you're working on data, rest of the time you're working on presentation, you're working on stakeholder management, right? So the actual work is very different from the theoretical perception that we have in college. So do an internship, do an OJT, on-job training, and try to figure out what you like. Talk to a lot of people, talk to your own college and alumni, talk to people from your own cultural background as well, because that is also something which affects what you will or will not like in a job. Okay, so that should help. So communicating with people, trying to understand what the jobs are actually like, and getting an actual hands-on experience. That's the practical bit of it. The more instinctive bit of it is that if something excites you, if you like something, you should do it, even if you feel that you may be at a disadvantage because you've not done this before, or it might be difficult, or maybe you don't have a natural talent. Your choices matter more than what your inherent talent might be, unless of course you're exceptionally gifted. If you're exceptionally gifted, then your talent will obviously shape what you do. But if you think that you're good at this, you're good at that, or maybe little less good at this, but you're more interested in this will pan out better for you. Okay, but that said, I will always suggest the practical way of actually trying to figure out what you like.
Yeah, actually that's true also. Unless until you know what you're gonna do, it's not fruitful to go for any other any stream that's available. Yeah. So let's take the last question. Can people from English honors background get into HR?
That isn't like that. That's a very good option for you. Why can't you get into HR? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah. So the movement is actually swift there. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Because I wouldn't say that people who are good in communication or are in English honors will naturally be better HR people, because the talent, the skill set of an HR is not just communication. It's also effective communication. It's also empathy. You need to be able to understand what your employees are going through, what is their problem. You have to understand them. You have to you have to make changes that they might not like, but are useful for them. So this is what an HR does, right? So basically, you are so the employees in the company are actually your customers for an HR, right? So you have to understand people, you have to have empathy, and you obviously have to be good at communication, because however much you understand someone, unless you actually able to communicate what you're thinking and you're able to understand what the other person is saying, you will not be able to help anyone, okay, and perform your job well. So English, if you're in English honors, I would assume that your communication skills are good. And English is, like, let's be practical, English is the common language which is used across all corporates. So it should be helpful for you if you are able to develop this sense of understanding people.
Yeah, very rightly answered, I guess. So This has been a repeated question over here, that what is your advice for growing up interns in the industry? Or I would put it in a broader terms, what is your advice for all the final year students of like 2021, the soon to be graduate 2021 students? Any advices, any short mantra that they should follow?
Okay, so because now you are now ready to get into the job market, you need to you need to start brushing up your skills. You need to just buck up, because now is when you actually have to perform, and you have to perform in the real world. It's not controlled like it's in colleges and exams, right? Umpteen number of things can happen. So one is that you have to mentally prepare yourself and be ready, because you'll also face a lot of setbacks, and you'll face a lot of setbacks where you are not at fault, right? So you have to become mentally tough if you want to work in the industry and anywhere in the real world. When you come out of a gated community and you enter into a non-gated community, you have to become mentally tough, and you will eventually do that once you are there. But it's a good thing to tell yourself. Okay, and to not get disappointed. That's one philosophical thing that I wanted to tell you. Another thing in terms of skill, please brush up on your skill sets. Please brush up on the practical application of your skill sets, because you're going to be judged very soon. In this time when a lot of people are unemployed and looking for jobs, freshers will need to perform well in their jobs to actually stay there. Okay, so brush up on your skills, focus on, if you have time, do internships, do some upskilling courses, learn new things, learn new skills. That is very, very important. Learn general skills like communication, learn how to do decision making, learn structured thinking. That is also very important. These are the broad skills that I had talked about. So try to focus on them and get them, because that is not something which is usually taught in the course. Like decision making, nobody really teaches you in a course, right? You actually learn it through experience, but there are ways to develop it. So you take those upskilling classes, you learn these things. That's that. Then the kind of job that you're doing, if you have time, take an internship, take an OJT. Don't sit at home. Take 2 months, learn something in the industry. Fourth is that don't stick to what you're doing. Try to diversify yourself, because maybe that particular thing may not work out in this scenario. You never know what is going to shut down, right? So learn skills like sales. Sales is a very good skill to learn. Any business that you go to, you will have to apply sales. And sales is not just the product that you're selling. It's also about selling yourself. It's about selling your work. It's about selling internally to the internal stakeholders, right? So being able to sell is a good skill to learn. What else? Then, yeah, be tech savvy. Learn tech very well. Tech as in learn G Suite, learn Excel. Excel is very important. PowerPoint is very important. So these are the small, like, be tech savvy. Every company, even the old ones, are moving to tech, and that is the future. So try to pick up tech skills. And when I say tech skills, it definitely does not mean coding by any chance. It's just very everyday tech skills. Like learn to use Zoom, learn to use G Suite, the things that I just mentioned. Okay. Anything else, guys? You guys can also suggest what
I guess you covered everything. All that needs to be done by final year or pre-final year student. I guess that was the perfect advice that students must follow right now.
And keep yourself aware. Guys, please keep yourself aware. Please learn about other people, learn about the society, because that's where you're actually going to function. If you're going to a new city, try to learn about the city, the culture of the city, how the people in that particular place behave, because that will help you adjust to that place. If somebody from Delhi is going to Bangalore, they should try to maybe learn 2-3 sentences of Kannada. That always helps. Right? So learning the language of a place is a very important part. You don't have to learn the language, you just have to learn 2-3 sentences. That's it. So try to adapt to the social setup that you're moving in, and keep your mind open. That's the whole point.
Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, so even communication is a very important skill to have.
Yeah, agreed. Yes. Totally. Please brush up on your communication skills, your English skills, even your Hindi or your local language skills. That will also help you a lot.
Yep.
Yes, totally agreed.
Shweta, you want to add something?
Yeah, so I think this has been a very motivating and inspiring session. And I think if I am anywhere, somewhere in doubt in any point of time in my life, I would definitely come to Aditi, because the way you actually explain and break down the entire question and the situation at hand is amazing. I mean, the way you articulate the answers, it's really nice. So it was very nice having you here.
I am very glad that I could be of any help.
Yeah, and I really hope that all of the users, all of the people, of the viewers have like absolute knowledge of what they would be doing going forward. So yeah.
Thank you, Aditi, for sparing some time for us today.
Thank you.
And I would like to thank
Yes.
And I hope our viewers learned a lot today, and I hope we are gonna see them again tomorrow for Aryahan session on myth busting of sales. And stay tuned, guys. We're gonna learn a lot tomorrow, and we hope you guys come in your head. There might be many myths about sales. Let's take a call over there and see whether we can change your mind, whether Arihant can change your mind tomorrow or not. And with that, we'll close our session. We close our third day of Carnival. And thank you so much, Aditi, Shweta, for being here. And we'll see you tomorrow, guys. Bye. Good night.
Bye. Good night.
So you want a great job? Check this. Go to Save Jobs, sign up and take a test. Find your best career fit and simply enroll. Get ready to change your life. Classes start, get that head start. Attend live lectures, meet your batch. Learn Excel, Google Suite, PowerPoint, sales operation, analytics too. Zyada ho gaya? Take a chai break, yeah? Get back on track. WhatsApp your instructor, track some case studies with your buddies. Take part in group discussions, learn English, management, leadership. Sleep, wake up, get to college. Kidding, yeah? We're online. On-demand classes at your time. Assessments that make sure you're in line. Mentorship sessions, counseling and learning. Master those interview skills. Write your resume, or better yet, record an amazing video. Ace that interview and land that perfect job. So what are you waiting for?